Back here on the Bobcast, presented by the Bobcat Sports Network. My name is Fielder Dennis, talking indoor track and field with Coach Shane Brookshire. And Coach, you went to WVU, you went to Morgantown in the Marty Pushkin Classic. What were your overall thoughts on the first indoor meet of the season?
The team definitely impressed me. We had some great performances that day, several that we were not expecting to have. They came away with 21 personal records, uh, breaking some personal records, or just establishing new marks and new events for these athletes. And so I think it was a kind of a banner day for us. And like I said, I was extremely impressed by the team. They knocked off some rust, but several of them finishing um, better than where they were at last year at this time. So I think that shows that the training's going really well, and that these athletes are ready to get started with the rest of the indoor season.
You mentioned knocking off the rust. Five different Frostburg State women's track and field athletes posted runner-up finishes, and one hit a personal record as the Bobcats competed at the Marty Pushkin Classic. How encouraging is that for you to see in your first indoor meet of the season and at Frostburg State University, you get such positive results? You're going against some quality competition down in Morgantown. I mean, how encouraging is that going forward?
It's extremely encouraging. Amy Tremblay was remarkable in that high jump. That was one of the unexpected ones. We had a good feeling that she was going to do well, um, but we haven't worked on high jump very much lately, just because of the weather conditions. And so, her improving her PR by such a great amount was absolutely amazing. And the rest of the team too, with several runner-up finishes, Madison Watson coming through in the 200 meter. I believe that 200 was one of her uh, top three all times for the 200. Kayleen Estrada, same thing. I think that was her number three mark for the 200 meter. Um, on the Michaela Westry in the weight throw, that was also impressive. Kind of came out of nowhere with that throw of 12.56 meters. And so, like I said, we've got a small team on the women's side, but I think we've got a lot of talent there, and a lot of athletes that want to work hard and be good. And I think we're going to have a strong showing at the conference meet.
And you mentioned some names. Let's go into to those names that you previously mentioned. On the women's side, Madison Watson ran well at the 200 meter, like you said. Being a returner, is she looked at as a leader for this younger bunch?
Well, I hope that she can grow into that leadership position. I don't want to just thrust her into it, and I
Mm-hmm.
have
Right.
put that pressure on her. But she's definitely talented. Has all the makings of a great 200, 400 runner, and so I think that she can be a strong individual, for us. I think she can be a strong leader for us. Uh, she's come a long ways. Just looking at her times from high school and all the way to her junior year now, and she can start to put it all together like she has been lately. She'll definitely be one of the best athletes in the conference.
Alyssa Mulry was second in the 60-meter hurdles with a 9.58 after running a 9.60 in the prelims. And then Morgan Matthews led a strong contingent of Frostburg runners in the 400-meter dash when she took second with a 1 minute 5 seconds time. What did you see from them? You mentioned their names earlier. One of the newer faces on in this indoor track and field program. What did you see from them that was really encouraging?
Well, with Alyssa Mullery, she barely missed her PR in the high jump as well,
Yeah.
and her PR is 5 feet. She went about 4:11, and uh, had a strong showing in the hurdles with that 9.58. And Shania Booker right behind her too, at 9.60.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to have kind of a 1-2 punch there in the hurdles. And um, on Morgan Matthews, she's all around a great athlete, coming out of field hockey, so she hasn't had much time to really transition into the track and field side, but
Mm-hmm.
um, she barely missed a PR in the shot put, and then having to double up with the 400. We haven't done much in speed endurance work, and so she's a few seconds away from her PR in that, and I said she's going to be one of our heptathletes come outdoor and do the pentathlon and indoor, and
Mm-hmm.
just because she is such a strong, well-rounded athlete. And so, and like Alyssa and Shania, Morgan, like Michaela, they're all freshmen.
Yep.
So, uh, I mean, try not to put too much pressure on them, like to really perform at a high level, but it's because they've got several years to develop. And but like I said, we've got a strong freshman group that I feel can bring home some points come conference time.
I kept using the word encouraging. That's really what this meet was for the women's side. I mean, very encouraging going forward, like you said, with such young athletes. Moving to the men's side, they finished with 5 wins and nearly 30 top 5 finishes. What did you see from the gentlemen that we use that word encouraging? Same idea.
Oh, start off with John Kearns.
Hmm.
That was another unexpected one. I mean, he's been having a great fall so far, like in terms of practices, like with the throwing, and like at the beginning of last week, like he was working on shot put, and he said it's going to be a good shot put week, and he winds up PRing by almost a whole meter. And like I said, like that was completely unexpected for this time of the year. I mean, that's something we're trying to do later in the season, and the fact that he comes out in first meet and throws a huge PR to start off the meet. Like, I mean, shot put was one of the first events for us, and so I mean, he really got the day going for the team. And then like we had Braxton Clark once again in 3,000. Like there wasn't a whole lot of competition there. Um, he's pretty much ran the whole race solo,
Hmm.
and he missed his PR by 5 seconds. And then Jaden Morley and Daniel Foster coming through in the 800 and the mile. For Jaden, that was his best ever 800-meter indoor time. Like few like not too far away from where he was for the outdoor 800, but like saying like great start to the season for him. Like Daniel Foster, like even though the mile went out a little bit slow, like he came through, like had a great kick. Like Jake
Hmm.
Rickards right behind him, Devin Horseman Guy and Lorenzo Wilson right behind him, and so it's like definitely a strong team. And then followed up with like the sprinters with Demetrius Sims and Clay Washington in the 200, and Mark Vaughns and in the hurdles, and Caleb Bonga and Nick Richardson, who didn't get to run the finals of the 60 meter, but like he posted one of the fastest times on the day in the prelims. So I said it's extremely encouraging once again, like to see this team like come out first meet, like not really knowing what to expect, and they pull off some impressive marks.
You mentioned John Kearns. He's the senior thrower, had a PR this past weekend. How has he anchored the throwing staff? I mean, I'd like to think a lot of those throwers look up to John for leadership and how to go about their business.
John's been a great leader on the team, especially with our current situation right now. I mean, I'm working with the throwers, but it's really like it's the throwers that are helping each other out.
Right.
And so, like I said, I don't have as much experience with this high level of throwers that we have, like with John and Mike Belker and Preston Duffield. And then if we look towards javelin later on with James Nell, and they've all really been helping each other out, like giving each other feedback throughout practices, which is uh, like as a coach is extremely like I'm fortunate to have that
Hmm.
and stuff
It's a
like that.
luxury.
Yeah, to have athletes that want to help each other out and stuff. And John's been helping the freshmen out, like helping Michaela and Alexa Bradburn out with learning the hammer and learning the weight throw and stuff. And so uh, their success is all all on them and stuff. Like they've been a great group to work with and stuff, and like understanding of the situation that we're currently in. And I mean, they're helping each other out every single day at practices, and so I said like their success is all because of them.
You mentioned Demetrius Sims earlier, the sophomore, took second place in 200-meter dash with a 23:48, and senior Kevon Adams was second in the long jump at 6.19 meters. How did they look? As I said, you mentioned Sims earlier. How did they look down in Morgantown this weekend?
For Demetrius, that was one of his better 200s as well. Like compared to last year and compared to some of his high school times, like
Hmm.
he's definitely a strong runner. Like has the talent. Like Now on an indoor track with the really tight curves, like his height is kind of a disadvantage to him, but he still ran well. Like the 23.4 that he posted, um, I think like on a faster track, like he's going to be in the 22s in no time, and we're back in the 22s in no time. Like I was told that this track is really slow for a 200, and um, both him and Clay like opening up faster than what they had opened up last year at this time, and so it's encouraging to see that improvement right away in the team. And then with Kevon Adams, like uh, he had initially tied for first place in the long jump, and so they went to the second best mark, and
Mm-hmm.
he barely missed out on that. So I mean that's why he finished in second place, but he's coming right along. He's got great height on his jump, like he can, which will allow him to carry a little bit further, and so we're definitely a strong program all around.
Great meet this past Saturday, and unfortunately the next meet isn't until January, middle of January, where you're at Susquehanna. What do you want to accomplish with that month off, and how do you carry the success from this weekend into that next meet with such great time?
Well, I think the fact that we had impressive marks, like athletes running better, competing better, like marks than what they were probably anticipating out of themselves as well. I'm hoping that this motivates them over winter break. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's tough right now because this is the time of year where it's make or break for the season. That like if you don't train over winter break, you pretty much lose your whole season. And so you want to be able to maintain that fitness level. You want to be able to improve that fitness level. And as a coach, like I mean, we're not able to work with them like during
Mm-hmm.
winter break, and so um, like it's hard to keep that routine. But if the athletes have feel that motivation from this last meet, then they're going to want to work out over winter and come into coming out of winter break, like going into Susquehanna, like hopefully with uh, confidence and focus, and like it's going to be even better competition at Susquehanna. Like every meet we'll go to from here on out will have a great track. Like we'll have great competition, like a lot of depth at the meets, and so I can only see us getting faster from here.
Coach Shane Brookshire, thanks for talking with us. We won't chat with you for a while now until the new calendar year. So we'll have a little break here on the Bobcast, but we'll be back in strong in the indoor meet. And also, congrats on the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, Boomer Sooner.
Thanks so much.
Hey,
Back here in the Bobcast, presented by the Bobcat Sports Network. We are talking swimming here. My name is Fielder Dennis, alongside Brian Christensen. Coach, didn't get a chance to talk with you last week. Glad to have you back. You traveled to Davis and Elkins to take on the Senators, and then California out of Pennsylvania in a tri-meet. The men fell 170 to 92, while the women were defeated by D&E 188 to 67, and California PA 191 to 63. The women had one first and second place finishers, while the men ended the day with taking 3 events and finishing second in 6 events. What were your overall thoughts on the meeting, even though I just gave you a lot of information there?
Well, thanks for having me here. And again, I'm sorry I wasn't available last week. I was feeling a little under the weather. Yes, fans, Coach Brian is mortal. So I wasn't up to coughing through the entire Bobcast here, but it's lovely to be by the fireside of the Hall of Fame room
It is
here.
a fireside chat today.
Yeah, I feel like FDR, settling the masses, calming, the waves of, people dealing with the Great Depression and the Great War, and
Yep.
we had a meet, I guess.
Davis and Elkins, yes,
We,
sir.
we did well. I think you summed it up well, where it was like I think I posted this when I was posting our recap on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Frostburg
Good plug.
Swimming. All the fans out there. But just a little bit too many runner-up finishes, and we're just not going to win a meet by getting second. The points scoring in college goes 9, 4, 3, 2, 1. 9 points for first, 4 for second. And we actually, I can't even really get too mad at the team. We had a lot of great touchouts. Like the 3 places that we had with medley relay, Just always just feels great to win the medley relay and kind of start off the meet like that on the men's side. And Anthony in the 100 backstroke, Luke Russell in the 50 free. All just great touch-out races. And then, in any good meet, you win your fair share touch-outs, you lose your fair share. Actually, on the men's side, the only one who really lost was the 400 free relay, which was some monumental effort on Davis Nelkin's part. Like they had a kid split 25-0, 25-9. I'm like, how did he do that?
Wow.
Which is a crazy split. He was going up against Quincy, and then they had a guy go 48-3 to finish it off. So they had to move to beat us,
Yeah.
and they got the touch at, which I'd say if we had 4 major ones and we won 3 out of the 4, it's hard to complain about that.
Mm-hmm.
A little too many runner-ups, Luke in the 100, Brady, Peterson 200 fly was a little bit out, just out-touched, and it just adds up. And the women, it's always interesting to have kind of a double duel like that, where
Mm-hmm.
we had 2 lanes, and Cal had 2 lanes, and D&E had 2 lanes. It was fun to watch Cal and D&E go at it. It was a very close meet between the 2 of them. And I kind of knew that we'd be a little bit outclassed by them. There's kind of some very, very good Division II established programs.
Yeah.
I was really excited about our one win, Megan Culbertson,
Mm-hmm.
in the 100 breaststroke, pulling it out. I ended up naming her swim of the meet. She came real close in the 200 IM and the 200 breaststroke as well. Like, it's tough. Maybe a second and a half separated our first place from having a 3
Mm-hmm.
first place finisher. And that's just kind of how it goes. So, we're just that close.
You mentioned Culbertson, and my question was, I'm going to mention how she won, and then what did you see that was encouraging? But I'll say this for both teams. What did you see from a competition standpoint going against D&E in California out of Pennsylvania? It was just encouraging from your team in terms of going against these stellar D2 programs and swimming and winning some meets.
Well, we swum really well, which was really impressive to me. Coming off of Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
we're on a break, which I encourage them to swim at home, but it's always kind of like,
It's not the easiest thing to do.
yeah, when you're kind of out of routine, you're home. Even if you might want to swim, maybe you got a family obligation, or
Mm-hmm.
you might literally be packed to go to the pool, and your mom says, "Hey, we're going to Uncle Charlie's," and
You can't miss Uncle Charlie.
Yeah, I know. So it's always kind of hard. I think some of our kids did get in the water, and we're pretty good about that. But it always ends up getting weird. And then even more than that, so our last week of school, basically, even though tomorrow is technically our last day of class, but stress is like an all-time high. I think kids were more thinking about finals, and they were thinking about the meet.
Yeah.
And I don't say that all that as an excuse, because I think we actually swim really well in spite of all that. We had some season best times, even a couple lifetime bests on some kids that really had not swum some events in a while. Once the meet got rolling, we locked in and were really focused, which was pretty awesome. I think the bus ride over, we're kind of like, we got to go through this meet. I wish I was home studying and all this kind of stuff. But we got it together, and we swim well. To your point, it was kind of like Aubrey Morris in the 200 free had a really good time. I mean, I think she was her best in season was like a 2:11, and she had done like a 2:06 at our midseason meet.
Mm-hmm.
With a little bit of rest, and then she ended up doing 2:12. But it was like everyone else in the heat was doing like 2:04s and 2:03s, so she was kind of like 8 seconds behind everyone, doing well for her.
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed, she might have thought she was doing terrible. We had a lot of that, where we were just kind of, everyone was just outpacing us. But we didn't. I was really proud because we didn't give up. We still swam our own race and did good times for us, even if they were like behind these other programs.
You don't get caught up comparing yourself with the other swimmers.
Yeah, and that's really hard to do in swimming. To think, oh no, I suck. But we did a great job, and I think we had a couple kids come out of the race that were like, Luke Russell in the 100 too. We went like a 51.6 or something, and he lost to the guy going like a 48.6 in the event. He was like, "Oh, I thought I was gonna do like a 55." I was like, feeling tired and sluggish. I'm like,
Mhm.
no, we did well. Even Sawyer Conklin in some of the distances, his times were a little off, but he I don't know, actually I thought his times were okay for where we were. I'm definitely a little off from where he was at his peak, but just then he felt sluggish, felt tired, but like our times weren't disastrous for how we were feeling, which to me was a win.
Moving to the men's side, they got off to a fast start with a victory in the 200-yard medley relay. Junior Anthony Giuseppetti, first-year James Harmon, first-year Quincy Page, and sophomore Luke Russell, you mentioned him earlier, combined for an exciting victory in the event with a 142.85, edging out the second-place finishers by 0.2 of a second. How did this unit impress? You talked about comparing swimmers. That was a relay team that really got the job done.
It was good, and it was exciting because those really are, I think, our top 4 guys for that relay this year.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't able to come together at the midseason meet because James Harmon had some family in Colorado. He was visiting for Thanksgiving and stuff. So we kind of actually did really well with Jacob Tintala as kind of our B breaststroker. He did a 29.9 in that, but so it was kind of exciting to get the crew together.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think
The band back together.
yeah, it was cool. That was very impressive. I always think the medley relay is so important to lead off the meet on a good note like that. If you have a bad medley, then it's kind of like downhill from there. And our women did well too. I was really excited for Taylor Standback, who was coming off some illness in October. Really, almost didn't swim at all in October, and then November's been really kind of tough. She had 3 weeks, and then she actually ended up dropping another 0.6 since our mid-season taper meet
Mm-hmm.
to finish off that relay. She had a great time for where she was. So it was really exciting to see those come together. I think we got third in the women's medley relay, but it was still again the same thing where they all individually swum really well.
We mentioned Giuseppetti and Russell with their victories and so close in their swims. How have they grown? How have these guys grown? And other on the men's side, how have they grown as the season's gone on? Still early, but you've had some lumps and you've had some victories. How have these guys really progressed as the season's gone on?
They've done well. I think Luke Russell's really coming on his own as a swimmer. He was a kid last year who I think was in the shadow of Luke Holloway. We even called Luke Holloway Big Luke and Luke Russell Little Luke. As the freshman coming in. I think Luke Russell. I'm not even gonna say because I don't want to inflate his ego if he's listening. But Luke Russell might becoming the Big Luke at this point.
Is there another Luke? Is there another Luke on the team?
Well, he's just he's graduating. He's doing not literally graduating, but he's becoming a man.
Do you have to recruit another Luke now that there's?
Yeah, we probably should.
Yep, it's mandatory.
That's right. But
sorry.
No, he's coming. It's distracting on the Bobcast. How dare you?
Fireside chat.
That's right. I wish you got to add the crackling of the logs and the roasting of the marshmallows. That's right.
Yeah. Sorry. Back on what you were talking about with Luke. How impressive he's been.
He's becoming a swimmer. He's starting to own his role a little bit. To be a little more clutch, which is cool, and that's really fun to see. I think he needs to start believing that he's good and working a little harder in practice. I think he's doing okay, but I think the coaching staff has pretty high expectations for him. Anthony, the same way, has really stepped into a role where he is kind of a natural leader on the team, and he's really got the attitude where he wants to push everyone else around him, which is becoming a really special thing.
Much like indoor track and field, you are off until January. You have some time here. You take on St. Mary's in Southern Virginia, some teams that we're familiar with here on the Bobcast. What do you want to accomplish with this time off, and what are you competing against in terms of, like you said, when you go home for Thanksgiving, how is this different, this break?
Yeah, well, it's a lot longer, and I always tell our kids we've had a really good first half, and it'll kind of go to waste if we don't do anything. We'll send out some workouts, old things, sample things for kids to kind of do if they don't really know what to do. It's all optional, voluntary, of course. But I encourage kids to swim with their club teams at high school, so just kind of stay in shape in some way. Um, because I tell them that how you perform at the conference meet is not going to depend on how you wake up feeling on February 12th. It's what you
Right.
did in January, what you did over Christmas, it was what you did here. We have already determined whether or not you're going to have a good conference meet. Like that's the work is done. If you didn't work, then it's going to be a rough meet.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can kind of keep going, then we're going to have a good time, which is good. We're actually swimming. So we'll head down to Florida to Jupiter for our training trip.
Right, yeah.
After the first, we're actually going to swim Georgia Southern when we're down there,
Oh. Okay.
which is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's always good to
we're-
get to Florida.
We're swimming them on the way down, stopping by Statesboro,
Yep.
Georgia.
Yep. I know Statesboro well. Yeah.
So that'll be it's not on our schedule or anything, not really an official meet, but we'll
Mhm.
kind of
With some reps.
get some swims down there. And then, yeah, St. Mary's is always fun. Our men beat them. They always give me a heart attack, I swear. We lost by 2 points in the dual meet last year, beat them by .5 the champs last year, and then
Yeah.
our men beat them by 8 points at the mid-season meet.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on a streak.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. The women don't match up with them as well, but looking forward to like Southern Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
which would be a cool time.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining us here on the Bobcast, presented by the Bobcat Sports Network. We'd like to wish you happy holidays. We won't talk to you till January. Thanks for the time.
It's an absolute pleasure, and happy holidays to all you families listening out there in Radio Land, and we'll give a shout out to Sarah and Missy. Go Bobcats!
Another episode of the Bobcast, presented by the Bobcat Sports Network. My name is Fielder Dennis, talking women's basketball with Coach Kerry Saunders. Coach 0-2 this week against West Virginia State and University of Charleston. What did you see from the team in those two matchups traveling down south?
Well, I think both of them, they're similar games as far as the physicality, as far as the tempo. I think this was the first set of MEC games where the tempo was definitely at a higher pace than the other games. So I think that was a learning curve for us going in there and playing at that pace. I think, in state we did a really good job of controlling ourselves. I think we were in that game. I think if a few things went the other way, it could have been us. And, I think about that game coming back to us here, the second time around when they travel to us. I think that's a really gettable game for us. As far as Charleston, that's a really good basketball team.
Yeah.
They just outsized us from every single position. So, you got to take things. I think we learned some things that game, and we've just got to move forward.
In the West Virginia State game, the team gave up 29 points in the first quarter, but like you said, they outscored the Yellow Jackets 2 of the next 3 quarters, so they're right back in it. What adjustments were made after the first quarter going forward?
Scouting report was all about how much they're going to press us, and then they're going to sit in a zone, which is what we worked on. And in the back of my head, I was like, he's gonna not press us off the jump, and he's gonna go sit in his zone, and that's exactly what he did. And I don't think the girls were necessarily prepared for that. The game wasn't drawn up to the T of what the scouting report said. They did press us, and then they ended up pressing us for the rest of the time. But I think it took us a while to settle into that, and settle into that. It was a little unexpected, and the pace again. I think if we didn't give up those 29 points in that first quarter, it's a completely different game. But we bounce back. We always do, and that's what's great about this team is we fight and we fight and we fight and we adjust. I thought people gave us good minutes off the bench, so I'm proud of what we came out of that game, because I think it made me realize players like KK, who's a freshman who I literally just threw into the fire, and she gave us a huge spark, was able to do for us. So definitely positives.
Speaking with the broadcaster from Charleston, Pat Hyman, he talked about how it's such a juxtaposition playing West Virginia State to Charleston. West Virginia State likes to run, likes to get the pace going. Charleston, the way they beat Glenville State and what happened on Saturday is, we'll talk about that game a little later, but they slowed the pace down, limited possessions. Did you see that different tempo style and that play into the roles of the results?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the pace of State is you've got to score with them. You've got to get your stops when you can. And Charleston, they press, but it's a completely different type of press. It's a 3-quarter court, slow you down, trap you over half court, and then pack line you. So it's definitely different. We don't have the shooters that we used to have. So when you sit in a pack line like that, we have a really hard time. And then when we're throwing our 5'11", 6-foot
Yeah.
post players against 2 6-footer or 2 6'2" kids, our game is to get the ball inside. Well, that's not working either, and we don't have the shooters that we used to have. So it's just really hard for us to find a rhythm offensively, because they shut our options down, and they kind of naturally shut our options down just because they outsized us. I don't think it was anything scheme wise, but yeah, I mean, there's a huge difference between those two, but you've just got to take those games and learn from them, and that's what we're trying to do at this point.
Sophomore Morgan Dombrowski powered the Bobcats in scoring for the third time this season against West Virginia State. She poured in 24 points with 3 threes, 7 free throws, and added 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 assists. Pretty complete game. How has she relieved Diggs as the other scoring option from the wing this season?
Yeah, I mean, she's doing a really great job. I think the thing about her is when she's not overthinking anything, she's a really great player. And we've had these conversations, is getting her to consistently be that. But yeah, in games like that, it takes the attention off of what I would consider one of our strongest shooters, probably the strongest shooter.
Yeah.
And the way that she scored in that state game really put the attention on her, especially going into halftime, because I'm not sure I don't think Diggs had many, and Morgan was pretty much filling up the stat sheet. So they focused her attention on her, and then all of a sudden in the second half, you've got both of them now scoring.
Right.
So I think they definitely turn their attention to her when she's scoring, and she's a really good player. She transferred here. I knew that she was going to be to fill a role from a longer guard, lankier guard that we needed, kind of a more physical guard, and that's what she's bringing to us. And when she can be consistent day in and day out and put up those, maybe not 25, but put up,
Yeah.
I'll take 25 a night, but
Consistent.
put up just consistent numbers and consistent stat sheets, we're going to be a really good team.
Victoria Diggs, you alluded to, she was scoreless in the first half, but scored 19 over the final 20 minutes of play, hit 4 3-pointers, 6 of 12 from the field. Senior Amanda Emery reached her double-double, 12 and 12, and junior Jada Holland just missed another double-double, 9 and 12. That's really been her calling card this season, double-doubles. How have they looked here early? Diggs has had some slumps, but then gotten hot later. Emery's been pretty solid. Holland, I haven't had a chance to speak with you much about Jada Holland, but she's really been incredible this early part of the season. She stepped her game up for sure.
Yeah, Diggs and Amanda being, the two seniors on the floor majority of the time, I expect the same out of them every night. So the expectations that I have of them are really high. And if they don't meet those expectations, not that day in and day out they have to, but they need to be in the stat line at some point. And especially, we're preaching with Amanda now that you've got to defend on the perimeter more than you ever have in your entire career at Frostburg. So there's definitely learning curves for both of them. It's not, they're adjusting to the pace and the style of this as well. But they're doing a really great job. They're two that I can lean on in big moments, and I know that they won't get flustered or get frazzled. Jada has completely turned around this year. She's definitely turning into the kid that I thought that she could turn into when we brought her here. I think her confidence is through the roof at this point. We're challenging her to do more and more and more, and she's rising to that challenge. She's learning more moves in the paint. She's oftentimes defending a guard when we're playing teams that are more guard-like. We're matching her up against the point guard, and that's exactly, the Seton Hill game, she literally guarded the point guard. So, she's doing a lot of things as well that don't show up in the stat line that I want to make sure that we talk about. But as far as the stat line and her double-doubles, and she's just got a fearless attitude about her now, and I would even like to see her get a little bit more chippy, because I think if she can get more chippy, she's such a nice kid that she's even going to continue to grow. And I've seen that a little, when people are pushing her around, she's giving it right back, and I like that. So yeah, she's shown up and she's done big for us on the boards, on the glass, putting the ball in the basket, getting the free throw line, defending. She's doing all of those things really well.
In the matchup with Charleston, you played one of the best teams and most complete teams in the conference. That's a squad that beat the perennial powerhouse Glenville State earlier in the season. What can you take away from a matchup against the Golden Eagles? Like I said, very complete, really balanced.
Yeah, I mean, I think a game like that against a team that's that complete is we have to still stay true to us, and I think that that's what we did. Yeah, the score was what it was, but we kept playing. And then I think the best thing that I could ever take out of that game was the end of the third, the whole fourth quarter. So we subbed out, the kids who started and played the most probably midway through the third quarter. I just didn't think it was worth the grind, and I think it was a really good opportunity for these kids that we've been kind of waiting to get game experience in a way. And they absolutely crushed it. That's all I talked about in the post game. They were completely unselfish. They outscored the top group from the third quarter.
Right.
I mean, we hardly scored in the third quarter. And they took their moment and they didn't have an attitude about it. I mean, some of them were like, that was fun. And for those kids to walk out of that game where we just got absolutely beat and say that was fun, knows that they're just a great group of kids and that they proved that they can handle those moments and, prove to me that we can go deeper and that we can play them in close games and be able to get some good minutes, because the way that they move the ball, the way that they talk to each other, the way that no one got down on each other. I know that, in games like that, you kind of have nothing to lose but go out there and play, but I thought they handled themselves extremely well, because midway through the fourth quarter, she didn't pull her bigs and her starters until the very end, which go for it. But, my bench, who some kids haven't even seen minutes this year, were standing tall to them. And so I think that is what I took out of that game the most. And also the way that the starters on the bench supported them. And those are the things that you have to take out of a game like that. The comments that were coming off of the bench of the starters about how well that they were playing was exactly what I wanted to hear. That's what you've got to take out. You're not going to take out too many X's and O's in a game that were just outsized, outmatched. But definitely took out that last group that we had in there, did such a good job.
To your point, both teams scored 17 points in the fourth quarter, like you said, with the Bobcats basically emptying out the bench. And Charleston, credit to their depth, but they kept a lot of their regular starters, rotation players in. One of the players that stepped up and had another stellar game this season, Sierra Thomas at the point guard position. How has she grown early in the season? And I mentioned on the broadcast, that's a tough position to be thrown in as a first year, and to be successful really shows a lot.
Yeah, when we were recruiting her, she was one of our top kids that we were definitely wanted, because we felt like we needed someone in that position. And the thing about her, besides her natural skill and her ability, I think that's undeniable, is the fact that she stays composed. She's the same kid day in and day out. When she gets frustrated, she just talks about it. She doesn't, change her facial expressions or anything like that. And that's what I think I commend her the most, of being thrown into a position like that as a freshman. And I mean, the other day in practice, she, told an upperclassman to hustle after a ball. And that's exactly what we need from her. And I think that's one of her greatest attributes to this team, is that she is a freshman. And we talked to her about that, is you have to mentally get that out of your head. Like, you're a basketball player and you're coming in here and you're filling a role that we need. You're not a freshman. That's like, so we're trying to transition her mind from that. And she's got really good ability. She's coachable. She's crazy coachable. Everything that I tell her, she tries to do almost to a fault. Sometimes I'm like, go do this, and that's what she's focused on. I'm like, no, you still take what's available. I'm just giving you options. We talked about something at halftime about her taking the ball deeper, and she did exactly that and scored. So she's doing a really great job for a freshman to come in and start. These last two games, we need her against teams that press us. Especially with Kayla out with an injury. We've got to have another secure ball handler in there. and a true point guard's mind. So she's doing just that, and I'm really proud of her, and she's going to be a really, really good player for us.
This week you take on Glenville State, the national powerhouse, and Concord on the road. Wednesday you play Glenville, and Saturday is Concord. What are you looking for in those matchups as you head down south in West Virginia again?
Well, the Glenville game, they're going to press us and press us and press us and press us.
Yeah.
So I'm looking just to get better against it. In my mind, yeah, we're going to go out there and we're going to give it our all and we're going to fight for a win. But at the end of the day, if we come up short, I want to be like what I consider this is Glenville's going to press us the way that State pressed us. Mm-hmm. So when we see State again, which is a team that we need to get to reach our goals, we've got more prep under us.
Right.
So in a way, like we're playing the top 3 teams right in a row. Like welcome to D2, welcome to Mountain East,
right.
And here we are right before break playing those 3 teams on the road, all 3 teams.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of taking what we can learn. So that way we're better prepared for the next team that presses us. Because that right now that's kind of our downfall, and we're getting better at it. But it's hard for us to replicate that in practice when that's not your style of play. It's hard to replicate that. So, I'm looking for us to just go out and compete, and that's what we do day in and day out, and we've got to defend. That's what I feel like we bring to this conference is our defense. So if we can start the game off hot and hang with them, it gives us a little bit of confidence and continue to defend. And I just want our kids to just keep working hard. It's coming. It's unfortunate that these 3 teams are who we've got until we head into the holiday. No one wants to go into a holiday like that.
Right.
But we've just got to keep defending and keep fighting, and we'll get there. And that's what I'm preaching to this team.
Coach Carrie Saunders, thanks for the time, and good luck this week. Can't wait to hit the road with you guys and see some good basketball. Another episode of the Bobcast presented by the Bobcat Sports Network. We're talking men's basketball here with Coach Sean. My name is Fielder Dennis. Coach, 0-2 this week down south versus West Virginia State and Charleston. What did you see from the team in those matchups as you headed in Southwest Virginia?
Well, we defensively we couldn't keep the ball in front of us. We just couldn't get stops. And then when we did get stops, we gave up second and third shot opportunities. We really got manhandled in those 2 games this week, and we pretty much got ran out of the gym in the second game.
In the West Virginia State matchup, you got good production from first-year guard Jalen Johnson. How has he blossomed in your eyes from the preseason to now?
Well, Jalen's a player. He's pretty solid. He does what we want him to do. He plays the way we'd like him to play.
Mm-hmm.
He pushes the ball up the court, forces tempo. He can make good assists, good passes. He got good vision. He can score the ball at the basket. He got a nice in between game. He can hit the 3-pointer. So Jalen's growing his game. He's growing. He's still trying to figure some things out. That just come with playing more college basketball. But he's everything that we thought he was going to be, and he's continued to grow.
Do you think the game slowed down for him here? He seems really way more mature at the point guard position than most first years, in some action. You think the game's just kind of slowing down for him as more time he plays?
Absolutely, and we want to continue to get him those reps also. He comes in as the 3rd point guard at practice, but as you see in the game, he's kind of that backup guy. He comes in, he's the first or second guy off the bench, usually the first point guard off the bench, and he plays starter minutes most of the time. Jalen's a really good player. Again, he's trying to figure. He got a lot to figure out. He's still got to figure out the college game. We want him to play by feel and not think a whole lot, and therefore he's going to make some mistakes. Sometimes some more critical than others, but that's part of the growing process.
It was a real run-and-gun kind of offense by West Virginia State in that matchup. You trimmed the second half deficit to single digits on several occasions. The first one, Daniel Alexander hit 2 free throws at the 11-minute mark to make it 67-58. How do you get over the hump in those situations? I know it's easier said than done, but you cut it to 10, you get it inside of 10. How do you get that little run just to get it to a 2-possession game? It's so easy to ask, but difficult
Well,
to do?
it's a whole lot of things I could say, but number one is trust. Everybody's got to believe that we can, believe that the game's not over, and believe that that we can get stops and scores. That's number one. You got to continue to get stops. At that point, when you're battling and you're back and forth and you're scrapping and you're cutting the lead, you're cutting into that lead, and and you're on that, say, a 7-2 run, or
Yeah.
even something as little as a 6-3 run. It's critical that you continue to get stops. No matter if you're scoring on the offensive end, it's critical to get stops and hold to one shot, one possession, because that's demoralizing for the offensive team. And then that momentum, they start to feel that pressure to score the ball. And when you can't, when you hold the other team from scoring, and they kind of get stagnant, they start to really question themselves, and then they start to fall apart. And look for scoring in other areas and start to do things that they're not accustomed to doing. So that's the main thing. You got to continue to get stops on defense. In offense, you can't just turn the ball over.
Saturday, you took on Charleston in a high-scoring affair, 107-87. And what is contributing to these offensive explosions? And Coach, I've had the luxury of seeing the team from last year to this year. Could it be a case of not having Big Zach down in the paint, a 7-foot body, to not allow any penetration? And same with Edwin Cole, such a good shot blocker. Do you think that is contributing to the lack of defense this season?
Absolutely. We had what we call our version of Twin Towers with Zach and Edward. Although Zach was hurt for quite a portion of the year last year. We our bigs, and I continue to say our bigs are fairly young. Especially the ones that's getting the playing time. Our bigs are young. Patterson didn't play a whole lot of any consequences freshman year. He played, averaged about 10, 12 minutes a game last year.
Yeah.
So these guys are young. And then we have two bigs transferred in. They're sophomores. They're still young and have a lot to learn about the game. And we're not quick enough. We're not aggressive enough. We're not we're too indecisive. We're not we're thinking way too much out there and not reacting.
Yeah.
And that's just part of learning that growing and learning the Division II game. And it just kind of is what it is right now.
Yeah. You talk about learning and growing and reacting and not thinking. And, well, one way to get those reactions going is to apply the full court press, which you did in the second half against Charleston. A lot of success, created chaos for UC. And is that something you're going to look to do for 40 minutes? I know Matt asked you, but you want to talk about reacting. The guys were flying all over the place in the second half.
Well, no, we're not going to look to do that for 40 minutes. And, we as a coaching staff, we looked at that several times, and we tried it, and it didn't work. So we're trying it in different spurts of, different parts of the games now, and and it's worked better. Just kind of sprinkling it in. First the guys complained about playing that way.
Yeah.
Now the guys want to play that way because they,
Sure.
they now they're seeing and they're trusting and they're believing it. But as a coaching staff, we're not sure if number one, if we're deep enough to play that way, and number two, if we're scrappy enough to play that way. Our team lack a little bit toughness, and I guess that's on me. Your team usually takes the personality of your head coach, and I'm surprised. This is the first time ever in my life that I feel like our team isn't scrappy enough, isn't tough enough. And that's got to change. That has to change. You can't be that team on any level and hope to be successful or competitive.
You talk about the depth of this team and how deep it is. Lawrence Pettis Jr. and Bo Sheen had big days offensively off the bench. Bo Sheen had I think a 10-0 run on his own at one point late in the second half. How is the rotation been set in stone yet? Are you still trying to put some pieces together, trying to figure out who's getting quality minutes, who plays well together?
Well, it's a mixed bag, man. We have guys who carry over from when Webb was the head coach. We have guys who who were, you know, kind of recruited in between, you know, Coach Hatch and myself, who's here on the team. We have guys who I recruited, who I brought in. You know, this current coaching staff brought in. You know, and then we have transfers who come in this year. So it's a mixed bag, and you know, we hadn't had a full complement of players even yet. And we're 8 games in, and you know, and we're still figuring it out. You know, we don't. You know, our guys, we hadn't had a consistent 5 guys play together yet, and you know, we're still looking. We're looking for some consistency. You can't build a program of, you know, inconsistent play, and you know, we're looking for some consistency because it not only does, not as coaches, not only are we looking, you know, this year, you know, we're looking to see what we're gonna have for next year, what we need to bring in, and you know, who's gonna play the way we want to play, who's gonna do what we ask, and you know, I guess that's the best way I can answer your question. You know, we hadn't found any consistency yet, and you know, we'll keep juggling, we'll keep until we find something we like.
This week, the Road Warriors back on the road as you go to Glenville State and Concord. What are you looking for in those matchups this week as I said, you go down south yet again to West Virginia?
Well, two really good teams.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking to go in there and we're looking to compete at you know at a really high level. Anything less is disappointing. Anything less, you know, we're as a coaching staff, we're not taking any of it. We're expecting to go in and play well. We're expecting to you know, pressure the other team and you know, make them do things that they don't want to do, and you know, that's kind of our game plan, especially going into Glenville. You know, how they hold up to our pressure, we'll see. But, you know, we want to. I don't want our guys playing on their heels. You know, I want to be the aggressor. I want to, you know, take it right at them, and you know, we'll see what happens. But you know, we're not going in there afraid. You know, we know they're a good team, but you know, we got some really good players also, and some good pieces in place. So you know, we're going in there hungry. You know, trying to get a win. A lot of, you know, it's hard to win on the road in college basketball, in college anything, any kind of college athletics, college or professional athletics. It's hard to win on the road. It's hard enough to get a win, period, but even harder to get a win on the road. And you know, with us not having a home game yet, and you know, we take what we can get, and you know, we're not going to complain. As I told you before, you know, it's tough. You know, we feel like we get a tough whistle on the road. You know, we don't get any help from fan support. We're playing so far away from home, but we like that. You know, we like that us against the world mentality, that feeling. So you know, nobody's gonna cry for us. We definitely not gonna cry. We're not gonna lay down. You know, we're gonna ride down on Wednesday and again expect to play well and expect to win.
Coach, thank you for the time, and good luck this week. You can tune into the games on 99.5 WDZN with the Bobcat Sports Network. Thanks, Coach Brown.
Thanks.